Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest discoveries of my life is this: success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day, while failure is simply a few bad habits repeated every day. That's it. Success and failure leave clues, and most of the time those clues are hidden inside our daily habits. Think about it. A habit is the invisible architect of your future. It quietly shapes your destiny, whether you realize it or not. Good habits create success. Bad habits create regret. Now the truth is, every one of us has habits we're proud of, and habits we wish we didn't have. The question is, are you going to let your bad habits run your life, or are you going to run them out of your life? Isn't it interesting how easy it is to get yourself into trouble, but how difficult it is to get yourself out of it? That's the way bad habits work. They never announce themselves with warning signs. They never say, hey, if you keep doing this, you're going to pay the price. No, they whisper comfort. They whisper convenience. They tell you just once won't hurt. Just today, just one more time. But here's the truth. Bad habits are easy to start, but very hard to live with. Let's look at it. It doesn't take much effort to hit the snooze button. It doesn't take much effort to light that cigarette. It doesn't take much effort to eat the donut, skip the workout, or say, I'll do it tomorrow. Those things feel good in the moment because they require no discipline. And that's the trick of bad habits. They reward you instantly. But then comes the bill. And life always sends you the bill. It might not show up today, it might not even show up this week, but keep repeating that bad habit, and soon you'll be paying interest. The snooze button costs you lost opportunities. That cigarette cost you your health. That donut cost you your energy. Procrastination cost you your dreams. See, bad habits trade your future for the pleasure of the moment. And that is the most expensive trade you'll ever make. On the other hand, think about good habits. They're the exact opposite. They're hard to start, but easy to live with. Waking up early isn't fun when the alarm rings. Going to the gym isn't always comfortable. Saving money feels restrictive. Reading a book takes effort. But what happens after weeks, months, years of those disciplines? You wake up with energy, you enjoy the strength of a healthy body, you have wealth instead of debt, and you have wisdom instead of ignorance. So here's the big lesson. Every bad habit makes life easy now but hard later. Every good habit makes life hard now but easy later. The question you have to ask yourself is, where do I want the pain? At the beginning or at the end? Because one thing is for sure, life demands a price. You either pay the price of discipline or you pay the price of regret. Now, most people choose the easy road, the bad habit road, because it looks smooth at the start. But if you've ever traveled a road that looks smooth at the beginning and then turned rocky, you know how tough that ride can be. Good habits, though, feel like the rocky road at the start, but then they smooth out into freedom, opportunity, and joy. Let me tell you something I learned early. We don't drift into good habits. We drift into bad ones. Nobody accidentally becomes disciplined, successful, or wealthy. But you can drift into laziness, debt, overeating, wasting time. That's why I say bad habits are like weeds. You don't have to plant them, they grow automatically. If you want roses, you've got to plant them. If you want a garden, you've got to work at it. But if you do nothing, the weeds show up on their own. So here's the challenge. Take inventory of your habits. Ask yourself, which habits are costing me more than they're giving me? Then remember, you started them easily, but if you keep them, they'll make your life hard. The earlier you stop, the easier it is to turn things around. The longer you wait, the deeper the roots grow. The good news, you can always choose. Every day is another chance to replace an easy choice that hurts you with a harder choice that helps you. And if you do that long enough, you'll discover the beautiful paradox of life. The hardest choices today create the easiest life tomorrow. The easiest choices today create the hardest life tomorrow. So choose wisely. Break the habit while it's still small, because bad habits are easy to start, but they're very, very hard to live with. One of the most powerful truths about life is this: everything compounds. Time is either your best friend or your worst enemy, depending on what you do with it. You see, the small things you do today don't look like much. Reading 10 pages of a good book doesn't look like much. Doing 20 push-ups doesn't look like much. Saving $5 doesn't look like much. And because it doesn't look like much, most people shrug it off. But let me tell you, what looks small today becomes enormous tomorrow. The key is this: habits compound. A little bit done consistently, multiplied by time, equals an extraordinary result. Let's look at the financial world. If you put $100 in the bank and you let it grow at 10%, over time it becomes thousands. That's called compound interest. Albert Einstein supposedly said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. But here's what I want you to realize: habits compound faster than money. If you read 10 pages a day, that's over 3,600 pages in a year, more than most people read in a decade. Imagine the knowledge, the vocabulary, the ideas you'll gather. If you exercise for just 20 minutes a day, that's over 120 hours in a year. Imagine what that does for your health, your confidence, your energy. If you save just $5 a day, that's nearly $2,000 in a year. Imagine what that looks like over 10 years. Now flip it. Bad habits compound too. Scroll an extra 30 minutes on your phone every day. That's 180 hours wasted in a year. That's nearly a full month gone. Eat 300 extra calories every day. That's over 30 pounds of fat in a year. Spend a little more than you earn each week. Before long, you're drowning in debt. Here's the thing: life doesn't punish you immediately for a bad habit. It punishes you eventually. And life doesn't reward you immediately for a good habit. It rewards you eventually. That's why most people don't stick with the right habits. The results are invisible at the start. Do 20 push-ups today and look in the mirror. Nothing happens. Read 10 pages tonight and look at your brain. Nothing happens. Save $5 this morning and look at your bank account tomorrow. Nothing happens. But here's the catch: keep doing it. 20 push-ups every day for 6 months and now your body looks different. 10 pages a night for a year and you're sharper, wiser, more confident. $5 a day for 10 years and suddenly you've got assets, options, freedom. The secret is consistency. What you do occasionally doesn't shape your life. What you do consistently does. And this is why habits matter so much. They sneak under the radar. They don't feel powerful day by day, but over time they quietly carve out your destiny. Here's a principle I learned early: success is nothing more than a few disciplines practiced every day. Failure is nothing more than a few errors in judgment repeated every day. It's not one big mistake that ruins your life. It's the little errors repeated over and over. It's not one big discipline that creates success. It's the little disciplines compounded day after day. So let me give you a challenge. Stop asking, what will it matter if I do this today? Start asking, what will it matter if I do this every day for the next 5 years? That's the real question. Because what you practice daily will not stay daily. It will become your destiny. If you want to change your future, don't wait for a miracle. Don't wait for a big breakthrough. Start with a small habit today. Then let time do what time does best. Multiply it. Remember, small habits don't stay small. They grow, they expand, they compound. They either build you up or break you down. So choose carefully, because what you feed today will rule you tomorrow. One of the greatest mistakes people make when trying to break bad habits is this: they think elimination is enough. They say, I'll just stop smoking. I'll just quit procrastinating. I'll just give up junk food. And for a short time they succeed, but soon they're back at it. Why? Because they tried to remove a habit without replacing it. Here's the principle: nature abhors a vacuum. If you create an empty space in your life, something will rush in to fill it. If you don't choose what fills it, the old habit usually comes crawling back. Let me give you an example. Suppose you watch 3 hours of television every night. You realize it's wasting your time. So you make a decision, that's it. No more TV. Night comes, you sit in your chair. Now what? You've got 3 hours to fill. If you don't replace that TV time with something better, maybe reading, journaling, planning your goals, before long, you'll find yourself holding the remote again. You'll tell yourself, just one show. And suddenly you're right back where you started. That's because habits aren't just behaviors, they're patterns, routines, automatic responses. You can't simply delete them. You have to overwrite them. It's like trying to uproot a weed in your garden. If you just yank it out and leave bare soil, guess what? Another weed will pop up in its place. But if you pull the weed and plant flowers there instead, now the garden grows something beautiful. So here's the formula. Don't just remove, replace. If you want to quit eating junk food, replace it with healthy snacks. Keep apples on the counter instead of chips in the pantry. Make it easy to grab something good, hard to grab something bad. If you want to stop wasting time scrolling your phone, replace it with productive reading. Every time you reach for the phone, pick up a book instead. If you want to break the habit of gossip, replace it with learning. Instead of spending 20 minutes tearing someone else down, spend that same 20 minutes building yourself up with new knowledge. If you want to stop procrastinating, replace hesitation with action. Don't just say, I'll stop putting things off. Instead, create a routine where the first 10 minutes of your morning are dedicated to your most important task. It's not enough to say no to the old. You must say yes to the new. Now here's another key. Make your replacement habit attractive. If you try to swap TV for something you dread, you won't stick with it. But if you replace TV with listening to an inspiring podcast or working on a creative project you enjoy, suddenly the switch feels rewarding. That's the secret. Give yourself something better. Don't just take away the candy. Add the fruit. Don't just remove the noise. Add the music. Don't just get rid of the time wasters. Add time builders. And let me tell you, once you successfully replace a bad habit with a good one, momentum kicks in. You no longer feel like you're losing something. You feel like you're gaining something. And when you're gaining, you don't want to go back. Think about it. When you replace an hour of TV with an hour of reading, at first it feels like sacrifice. But after 6 months, when you've read 6 or 7 books, your perspective changes. You realize you've invested in yourself, and the payoff is incredible. Now the thought of going back to endless reruns feels like a waste. That's the power of replacement. You shift from subtracting to multiplying. So my advice is this. Don't just focus on what you need to stop doing. Focus more on what you need to start doing. Because when your life is full of purpose, growth, and meaningful habits, the bad ones don't stand a chance. Remember, you can't just remove a habit, you must replace it with something better. Pull out the weeds, but plant the flowers. Break the bad, but build the good. That's how transformation lasts. One of the most important lessons I ever learned about habits is this. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. Most people think breaking a bad habit is only about discipline. They say, if I were tougher, I'd quit. If I had more willpower, I'd stop. But here's the truth. Even the strongest willpower can crumble in the wrong environment. If you want to change your habits, don't just change your mindset. Change your surroundings. Let me explain. Imagine you're trying to eat healthy, but your pantry is filled with cookies, candy, and soda. Every time you walk into the kitchen, temptation stares you in the face. Maybe you resist once. Maybe you resist twice. But eventually, you cave. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. Now imagine a different environment. Your fridge is stocked with fresh fruit, vegetables, lean protein. When you get hungry, what's available? Not the cookies, the apples, not the soda, the water. In that environment, your willpower isn't even tested. You've made the good habit the easy habit. That's how powerful environment is. It can work for you or against you. Think about your friends. If you spend time with people who complain all the time, gossip, and waste their evenings, guess what? You'll slowly become like them. Not because you intend to, but because environment shapes behavior. You pick up their language, their attitudes, their pace. But if you surround yourself with people who read, who work on their goals, who push themselves to grow, you'll find yourself naturally rising to their level. Their standards rub off on you. Their habits become your habits. That's why I always say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. The same principle applies at work. If your workplace is disorganized, filled with negativity and laziness, you'll struggle to stay productive. But put yourself in an environment that values focus, growth, and results, and suddenly you're pulled upward. So here's the key. Don't just fight your bad habits. Design your environment to make the good ones easier. Want to exercise more? Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Put your running shoes by the door. Remove the barriers. Want to read more? Keep a book on your nightstand, on your desk, in your bag. Make reading the easy choice. Want to stop wasting money? Unsubscribe from shopping emails. Delete the apps that tempt you. Make spending harder. Want to focus better? Clear the clutter from your workspace. Create an environment that tells your brain, this is where we work, not where we scroll. Here's another powerful shift. Sometimes the best way to change your environment is to change the people in it. That doesn't mean you have to cut everyone out of your life, but it does mean you need to be intentional about who gets your time. If you spend most of your time with people who hold you back, you'll never reach your full potential. But if you spend time with people who inspire you, challenge you, and expect more from you, you'll rise. Remember this, your environment can either drain you or drive you. It can either feed your bad habits or fuel your good ones. So ask yourself, what in my environment is making my bad habits easy? What can I change to make good habits the path of least resistance? Because in the end, success isn't just about willpower. It's about design. If you design the right environment, good habits become natural, almost automatic. If you stay in the wrong environment, bad habits grow like weeds. So don't just work on yourself. Work on where you put yourself. Build an environment that supports the person you want to become. And watch how quickly your habits begin to align with your goals. Most people hear the word discipline and immediately think of restriction. They think it means less freedom, less fun, less joy. But let me tell you the truth. Discipline doesn't take away your freedom. Discipline gives you freedom. It may sound like a contradiction, but think about it. The person without discipline is not free. They are a slave to their impulses, a slave to their bad habits, a slave to every distraction that comes along. They say yes when they should say no, and later when they should say now. That's not freedom. That's bondage. On the other hand, the disciplined person, the one who learns to say no to the wrong things and yes to the right things, that person enjoys freedom. They're not controlled by the alarm clock because they've trained themselves to rise early. They're not controlled by debt because they've practiced saving. They're not controlled by cravings because they've learned self-control. Let's fellas break it down. The discipline of exercise gives you the freedom of health. When you invest a little sweat today, you avoid sickness tomorrow. You can walk further, climb higher, live longer. That's freedom. The discipline of saving gives you the freedom of wealth. Skip a few luxuries now, and later you can afford choices most people only dream about. That's freedom. The discipline of learning gives you the freedom of wisdom. While others are limited by what they don't know, you move with confidence because you've prepared your mind. That's freedom. Now let me show you the other side. Without discipline, lack of exercise traps you in fatigue and poor health. Lack of financial discipline traps you in debt, stress, and limitations. Lack of mental discipline traps you in ignorance, confusion, and missed opportunities. So really, there are two kinds of pain in life. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret? One weighs ounces, the other weighs tons. See, discipline asks for a price up front. You pay with effort, with consistency, with sacrifice. But the reward is multiplied freedom later. Regret, on the other hand, asks for nothing up front. It feels easy today, but the bill comes due with interest, and it's always more than you wanted to pay. Here's the paradox. Discipline feels like control in the short term, but it leads to freedom in the long term. Indulgence feels like freedom in the short term, but it leads to change in the long term. Think about the student who disciplines themselves to study every day. At first it feels like prison, but when the exams come, they walk in with confidence. Contrast that with the student who indulged in fun every day. At first it felt like freedom, but when the exams come, they're trapped by their own neglect. That's life in a nutshell. Discipline creates freedom. Neglect creates bondage. The question is not, will I suffer? The question is, which suffering will I choose? The small suffering of discipline today or the crushing suffering of regret tomorrow? Now here's the good news. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. Start small. Wake up 15 minutes earlier. Save $5 a day. Read 10 pages a night. Build the muscle. Over time, those small disciplines grow into massive freedoms. And here's the best part. Once you taste the freedom discipline brings, you won't want to go back. Once you feel the energy of health, the relief of financial stability, the power of knowledge, suddenly discipline doesn't feel like a burden anymore. It feels like a gift. So let me leave you with this principle. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is the highest form of self-respect. It says, I stem worthy of a better future. I stem willing to do what it takes to have it. Remember, discipline equals freedom. Not less life, but more life. Not less joy, but more joy. Not fewer choices, but better choices. Choose discipline today, and tomorrow will reward you with freedom. My friends, don't underestimate the power of small choices. Every day you are either building your future or breaking it, one habit at a time. If you want a better life, here's the formula. Break your bad habits before they break you. Remember, the same energy it takes to feed a bad habit can be used to grow a good one. And when you stack good habits day after day, year after year, the result is a life of freedom, success, and fulfillment. So make the decision today. Identify one bad habit and break it. Replace it with one good habit. And let that simple choice begin the process of transformation. Because if you can master your habits, you can master your life.